Hello everyone. Hello. Hi. So my name is Ninji Wei, and this is the last session for the Linux server and CCR. So let's look at what we've already learned so far. The first thing, we already finished the basics part. We know how to use CCR, connect to it, and how to run your jobs there. So that's basic stuff. Right now, everyone I think in this room already know how to run the scripts in CCR. So in the last session, what we did is we introduced to some advanced techniques when we're using Linux. Right? So the first thing we introduced that when you're using Linux system, there's a transition of your mentality. That is, before using that, maybe what you're gonna do is you learn different apps and stuff, trying to use to that interface application. And when you're using Linux, actually, you always can ask yourself, how can you change the setting of the computer to make it adapt to what you want? And we practice this thing with a very small example. That is how to connect it to the CCR. After our practice, we can just connect to the server with just a very simple command, CCR. And in the process, what we know is that actually it's very easy to do it. It's just create some script with several lines. It will be very easy. And with this new mentality, what we can do today is that we're going to introduce a lot of advanced tools that you can use in the CCR. It including, the first thing is resource monitor, htop, and also file manager, midnight commander. And if you want to do several tasks at the same time, you're going to use this tmux. And also the last, we're going to introduce the powerful text editor V. So the first thing is about system monitoring app, htop. So basically, functionality is if you want to open it, you just still use the htop command. So if everyone want to try it, we can do it together. First, we need to connect to the CCR. Now we are in the environment of CCR. I'm gonna zoom in that a little bit so everyone can see it. So this is the environment of CCR already, and you can just type htop, and you will see this interface. So there are 4 sections, 4 different regions in this interface. The first part is this part. It will show how many cores you have, CPU you have there, and their current running status. And the second section is this. It's also showing some the memories or the how many tasks you have here. And this is actually the third section. In this section, you have, just like the text manager you will see in the maybe Mac or the Windows, that there's a lot of processes and background applications you can see here. And you can not just have a look of everything here, you can also kill the process and do some setups. So one good thing about this htop is that actually you can you can interact with it with mouse. So for example, instead of using some keys, shortcut of keys, I can directly click here, and I can select different things. For example, if I want to also show clock in this interface, I can just click the clock and add. And you can see here we have a timer. And maybe you want to change the style to different styles, like this one. So there's a lot of configurations you can do about this app. So basically this is that there's a lot of option under here. You can try them yourself. So basically, this is the place that you can see the overall status of your computer. This is htop. So you can read off different system status, and there's 4 regions of interface. We already go through that part. You can queue tasks from that place. And there's one thing about how to learn new apps, because in Linux you need to always use different keystrokes. So maybe you can want to check the app name, cheat sheet, and user guide. It will always give you a sheet of like the shortcut of keys to finish what you want, to do what you want to do in that app. And sometimes it's a lot like the key strokes there. You just remember the most useful things for you. And this is a cheat sheet for htop. If you want to use that, this is the link that have a lot of information about how to use that. And the second thing is file manager. So remember, before what we used trying to transfer files and create files is using the command line in the terminal, right? But this time, actually, we can use this app to make it more efficient and easier. So the way of using this file manager is type MC. It's just shortcut for the midnight commander. So let's go back to the CCR environment. And you just...
Are you recording?
What?
Are you recording?
Yeah, I'm recording it right now. So just click MC, you will see this interface. So this is a interface for you to manage different file operations. So there's 2 panels. It's just like the first panel pane here. What you have is a lot of different folders, and it's very similar to the file manager you will see in the Windows. So still it's clickable. That means you can use your mouse to do all the tasks, and you can change the layout if you want. Like if I want left section become a tree and right section is all the folders. And there's a lot of like places you can click. That is, if you want to copy, if you want to rename, or make a new directory, you can use those places to do what you ever want. Oh, also there's a pretty important thing that is sometimes you want to jump into this app and back to the terminal sometimes. So what you can use is Control-O. It's a Control-O, and you can go back forth and do what you want. So it's a very convenient function for this. So it's still the same. We can use this app to create, copy, move, delete folders and files. And it's also interactable with the mouse. And we can change the layout, just like every app in Linux. We can change the layout. We can define the hotkeys you want. And there's some useful keyboard shortcuts if you want to try it together. The first is Control-O, which is switch between the console and the interface. And the tab is actually jump between those panels. And there's a lot of things you can use this. Basically, you can try a lot of different things on this app. And also, I add the cheat sheet for this thing. So if you want to really go deep on how to use this app, you can go to this link. There's many other functionalities you can achieve with this app. So right now, with so many things we already learned, what we can do, right? The first thing, we can, of course, use the command line, use bash to run your jobs like we did several weeks ago. Everything you can achieve in bash. And the second thing, we can use nano to edit files. That is something we can do right now. You can change the configurations or even coding there. And the third thing is we can monitoring jobs with the watch command I mentioned in one of the session. And also we can use htop and also the midnight commander to achieve like rename the folders or check the status of computer. So right now we really have a lot of things to do in the CCR, but the thing is not so convenient is that we can only do these things one by one. So what we really want is that just like what you're using in the Windows and maybe the Mac, that we can have multiple panes to do different things in each place. And we can maximize and minimize each panes. And we can copy paste texts between different panes. And also you want to have multiple windows. The windows here, the windows here actually means just like the workspace in the Windows. And you want to have multiple sessions. Basically, you want to have a very good way to construct your workflow, right? You have not just doing one thing at a time. You want to do multiple things at the same time. So the Tmax is really useful. Basically, it's a terminal multiplier. I think that's the reason it calls Tmax. I don't know why there's X. But basically, that's the meaning of this thing. So this is where that things really get interesting. So we can combine everything we learned before and do them at the same time. So let's first close this app. And to use Tmax, if you want to start a Tmax session, it's very easy. You just Tmax. And right now, it seems like you're just doing exactly the same thing, right? You just open terminal, but the color here is a little bit different. So in this place, actually, you can do multiple works together. So maybe let's first to see how can you do things here. There's a strokes there, like help you to split screen left and right, and you can even do more, like you can split in the second one, and you can do even more, whatever you want, and you can jump through different panes and resize them. And maybe in this area, what you want to do is open a text editor to change your code, right? And in the right place, what you can do is you can maybe monitoring the jobs in our server. So you will see all the jobs here. And also, you can do a lot of things, maybe MC here. And htop's there. So this app is really useful. And there's one thing you will notice that is maybe the region is too small. So if you want to use that, it's too small for you. But there's a key stroke is just like to maximize and minimize that region. So for example, I go to this area. If there's a key, I can just maximize that place, maximize that region, and also minimize that thing. So it's very useful. It's just like you have several different modules on the same screen, and you can focus on the thing you want to do. If you want to just do one thing, you maximize it. If you want to have an overlook or overall like view of the whole thing, you just jump out. So I've already shown like the potential of this app. Right now, let's look at a little bit about the keystrokes, like the hotkeys. How can you do that? If you want to try it, you can use these operations to try it yourself. So this is start a new session, like Tmax. And if you want to detach a session, that means you want to go out of that session, go back to the original terminal. You use, this is Control B, then at D, detach, right? So you first press Control B and D, then you will leave that session back to the original terminal. So let's try that. So right now I'm in this session. So I use Control B, then D, I go back to the original panel. But I can use Tmax list ls to show all the sessions I'm currently have. So right now I only have one session, right? I can build a new session. I called it Tmax. I don't remember the name of that. So this is start a new session with name. So I will use Tmax new -s name to start a new session. Let's try that. Maybe code 1. Okay. Did I type something wrong? Oh, new S. New. So now I'm entering to a new session, and I can detach one more time, and let me check. Right now I have 2 sessions here. So one is 0, which is the default session I used the first time. The code 1 is second session. I named it as code 1. So you can go to either sessions as you want. And if you just want to go back to the recent session, you can use just tmux a. So I think tmux a means tmux attached to the recent one. So we'll go back to code 1. If you want to go to the second one, go to the first one. I think there's a keystroke for that. That is attach specific session, right? So tmux a -t with the name. Tmux a attach 0. Now I go back to this environment. There's one thing about tmux that is really useful is that when you are using CCR, that once you jump out of the disconnect the connection, then every time you go back, there will be blank, right? You have a blank space, right? So what you want is that you disconnect from CCR, but next time you go back, you have the same layouts. You open the same apps. So this is one good thing about tmux. If you do not queue all the sessions, even you disconnect with CCR, the next time you go back, you can still attach the session and you still have everything there. So let's try this. So let's just close this thing. Yeah, close the window. So right now I disconnected with CCR. I can start a new session. Right now I'm just in my local environment. I use CCR to connect to CCR. And I can still use tmux list. I still have those 2 sessions there, right? So I can use the same thing, go back to the first session, just tmux a. It will go back to the recent session. I still have everything here. I don't have to open everything one more time. And maybe you're just in the middle of the coding and your code is still there. So this functionality is really helpful. But there's one thing is that I think CCR, they have some policy of the longest time of running a background application. So maybe after 12 hours or 24 hours, they will kill this thing. But if just a short period of time, you can go back, you can have the same thing here. Now, we showed that there's sessions, right, for this application. Also, you have different panes. And sometimes you want to have different workspace. That means in the same session, but you want to have 2 or 3 different windows. In each window, like in this part, you focusing on the coding part. In the other part, maybe you're doing the other project. So that's the third part that is pretty useful for this, provided by this application, is that you can create multiple windows also. So let's first look at about how to create different windows. So there's one thing about this application is that there's a prefix key before Alt Command. It's Control B. You can change that by yourself if you think this key is not so comfortable, but the default key is Control B. So Alt Command in the session, you want to start with Control B. So when we create different windows, this is the pane operations. This is how to, if you want to do what I did to create a vertical split, you just Control B, then type this percentage sign. It will split vertically. If you want to split horizontally, you just use this. So, and you want to jump between different panes, you just use the arrow key. Of course, you need to press the prefix Control B first. So these are all the pane operations. You can move panes, create panes, jump back and forth. And actually, there's one thing is that it's better is that you can do better is that you can auto start sessions with layouts and applications you define. So I'm not gonna talk about too deep about this thing, but basically what you want to do is just like we did before. You create a very short file, and in this file have several lines of scripts. And there's an example there. It's just really 3 or 4 lines. What you say is the first line is maybe you create, open a session. The second line is what you say is create a vertical split and open the first, maybe the Vim at the first split. So you have several lines to describe what you want to do in that file. And every time you just run that file, it will give you a layout, including all the applications and the layout you want. And the last one is I said before, which is all about window operations. So still we need to use the prefix command, that is Control B, and C is create a window. Let's try that. So Control B, C, we create a new window, right? And if Control B, W, then it will show that all the windows you have in current session. So you can choose the window you want and go there. And you can see I can jump to the second window. I can create more. And I can, you see I have 3 windows here. So basically it's just similar to the pane, but it's just, instead of creating panes, it create different windows and you can jump back and forth. So when you really have a lot of applications to use in CCR, and when you're familiar with the environment, this Tmax is very useful to boost your productivity. And also, if you have multiple panes, multiple workspace, there's one weird thing which is very natural when you're using Windows or the like Mac is copy and paste, right? You can always copy the text here, paste to somewhere else. But when you're in a terminal, if you just have one terminal, you don't have that problem because there's only one window you open. You don't have to copy things from here to there. But if you open several panes, maybe what you want to do is copy the text from this pane to the other pane, and you can do this with some also some keyboard shortcuts. And these are all included in this cheat sheet. So I think this is the part, this is the last part. I think I left enough time for the last part. So this is Vim. So I finished introducing the Tmax already. So the next part is introducing text editor V, right? So everyone knows we already learned how to use Nano, which is very intuitive, very easy, just open it. And there's a lot of like a lot of commands in the bottom of the app. You can use them to save, to create, whatever you want. So why are we gonna learn this? So if you want to like write complicated code, Nano cannot really helpful, right? Because it cannot help you to do the auto completion like you can do in every IDE, and it cannot like test, find out errors in your code, right? So V is different. It's very complicated. It's a full-featured IDE if you want to build it in that way. So V actually represents a class of text editor instead of just one. So V is the original application, and it almost in every Linux environment. So that means no matter what kind of Linux environment you're using, in 99.9% of the time you will find these applications there. And Vim, the meaning is V improved. So also like in the 99% of the time you can find this in your environment. And GVim is the same thing but with a GUI. So if you really like want to use this application, if you are using like Mac or Windows, you can also use this thing because this thing provides you a GUI interface. And the NeoVim, according to their website, is the future of Vim, and I like this most. But unfortunately, we cannot use this in CCR. So in CCR, what we have is this VI and a Vim. But the good thing is that that you can learn any of them, and you'll know how to use the rest naturally, because they are basically in the same class. Now, Vim is not really very easy to get started with. It's not like Nano, you can just open it and type things inside and you can do everything naturally. So there's a like Vim learning curve, and they said if you want to use in Vim, you need to like climb up this thing at the very beginning. Seems impossible to do. But after this very steep learning curve, it will become easier, easier, and easier. So this is also the same thing with Emacs, which is another very good text editor. So even though it's so difficult to learn, maybe you will be thinking why right now we need to use that. There's like the Atom and also like the other text editors very popular right now. Why you want to use Vim, right? So if you really learn this application, it will reward you along the way a lot. So this application is like the first release is 1976, and if you really check it online, it's still on the top of the list in almost all the comparison of text editors, and it's everywhere. You can use it in all platforms, and it's very fast and efficient. Yeah. There's basically no loading time of that, and there's no weird stuff you need to do in this environment. And it can be a full-featured IDE for almost every language. So the first time when I'm trying to start using Linux, the first thing I want to do is install a lot of applications I want to use, right? So basically for different language I'm gonna use, I will like download the IDE for that. Like C++, I will use the, there's called maybe Code Bean or something like that. If I use Java, I will download the Eclipse, right? If I'm using Python, then probably I'm gonna use the PyCharm or something like that. But when I start to use Vim, and after a while I really know how to use that thing, I find out actually I can code everything just in Vim. I don't need any other IDE. And the things that it's not like a compromise. Actually, it can be really full-featured IDE for almost every language, and you can tweak the IDE to suitable for your workflow. And of course, the same thing is like if you want to use LaTeX, it can be a full-featured IDE for LaTeX. And you can configure it as simple, as fancy, as efficient as you want. And after a certain point, you just want to use it forever. And there's a thing I like from some website. It said that according to the Slate, Emacs and V are among the longest lived applications of all time. So that's the reason you can rely on that. That means for other applications, maybe spend some time on that, and after years, there's new replacement. But for those two applications, it's really have very long life. So you don't need to worry about you learn so much and someday they just dead. It's almost impossible, right? And the second thing is the Wikipedia entry on the difference between those two applications describes holy war. I think I mentioned that before, between those two applications, which has raged since late 1970s. So this is pretty crazy about two text editors, right? And also, both editors require learning their respective commands, which means you won't able to open them and get ready to work just like you using Nano. But expert users of either seem to make their editor of choice perform like magic, often without even leaving their keyboard's home row. So you don't need to use your mouse anymore. It's very efficient. So right now, we just talk about so many stories about Vim. So what really make Vim special, and why like Vim can make such a good text editor? There are three things I think I'm not like gonna show you every step how to use this thing because we only have a limited amount of time. But I think if you heard those three concepts when you really need to use this app, you can learn it pretty fast. So the first thing is it's a modal text editor. That means it has different modes to do different things in different mode. So the first thing is normal mode. So let's go to Vim. and have a look. So by using Vim, you just type Vim and you can open that, right? So here there's a very small place that says this will show that what's the mode you're currently. So the first thing that people feel very uncomfortable is that when you open Vim, you cannot type anything. When you like try to type today, it will never work, right? Because you are in the normal mode. So if you want to type something, you need some stroke, and you can see it changed to insert. So if it's in the insert mode, then you can type things, just like using Nano. Right? So when you finish typing, you can type escape, and you go back to normal. So right now, if you type anything, it doesn't work. So, but why we have a normal mode, and it's like the default mode for this application, because it's very easy for you to like go to different places of the file and also manipulate of the texts. Like I can copy paste, and I can do them at the same time. And sometimes one thing is very useful. For example, I want to comment out some of the lines, so you can see the mode change right now. It's visual block mode. So I can choose a block and just add one comment, and it will add comment to all the lines. So this is one important thing. If you want to learn Vim, you need to first thing know what are the modes are. And in each mode, you can do different kind of stuff. And if once you are like really convenient about the different modes, you will do things very effectively. So I think that's the first concept. So we have different modes, like normal modes we see before. We can navigation and manipulate of text. And insert mode actually is the most text editor you just directly go into. So you can insert new text. And visual mode, you can do selection, copy, paste. And there's a command line mode that you can input command to help you to do different things. So there's a full introduction of all the modes there. If you want to learn, you can use them. And the second concept is called text objects and motions. And this concept is not just restricted to Vim, because this concept really influences many other applications. So that's the reason Vim is important, because sometimes a lot of applications, if you know how to use Vim, you know how to use those, because it's very natural. So the command, like the key shortcuts in Vim is different from when you're using like normal terminal, because they have a very advanced concepts, at least in their time. So this is like the structure of the command. So first you have a command, which means the operation you want to do, right? The second one is number, the third one is text, object, or motion. So let's dissect each part of that. The number is that, the meaning of number is like how many times you want to repeat this command, right? And the command is, like I said, it's an operation. Maybe D means delete, C means change, Y means young, and there's a lot more of that. And there's a text object, like W means word, S means sentence, P means paragraph. So IW means inner word. What's the meaning of that is the word, but doesn't including the space between those words. But if you type AW, that means a word. So this one will including the space beside of the word. So the same thing can apply to the sentence, paragraph, and also this thing. This means in the brackets, round brackets. This means a round brackets. So the command in the Vim is interesting because, for example, if you want to remove a word, delete a word, right? So the command is DAW. So delete a word. So that means you delete a word. So what if you want to change two words, right? So you have C to W. So this means I want to change two words, all right? And also if you want to copy everything of a bracket, you use young a bracket. So after you be familiar with this language, you will feel everything is very natural and you can compose your own sentence to do different things. So let's try this a little bit. So for example, if I want to delete this word, so I use DAW. So that means I will delete a word. So I remove that word. So what if I want to delete two words? I D2 word, it will remove two words. Right? And what if I want to delete something inside of brackets? I can use delete inside of the brackets. I remove everything inside of brackets. And if I want to remove everything including the brackets, I just use delete a brackets. Right? It's very short. It's not just like a command. It's like you're composing a sentence, and that sentence actually is what you want to do. So this is the second concept called text objects and motions. And if you, I think the most important feature of this concept is that once you learn a few words, like the word for the operation, the words for the different text objects, then you can compose themselves actually to do a lot of different things yourself. And you will be very natural, even you don't know a command for remove a whole line, you just compose it yourself. You delete a sentence, right? So that's it. Now the full introduction of all the concepts in text objects and motions can find here. If you want to use this, you can go there. So the third concept actually is plugins. It is a concept that's very popular in all the the applications right now. But for Vim, it's really powerful because a lot of people are still using it right now. So the first thing you can do is you can use some plugin to do the syntax highlighting for all different languages. So for C++, Python, you install a plugin, it will give you different syntax highlighting. And you can also have auto completion. Also linting, which means the code analysis for different language. And also you can change different color styles if you're really into that. I think you can change different color styles and make them into just one keystroke. And also, you can install some plugin to integrate Git with the application, and you can also have the fuzzy file finder and also file tree. So what I mean is, if you want to make it as IDE, you can have this, right? Usually you have this thing here. And you can maybe have multiple places to write different things. So this is how you using Vim. You can use multiple windows and you can select the files from here, and you can open terminal at the same time and to change to test your coding there. And also there's multi-cursors. So this one is interesting. I just found out yesterday. So I'll show you guys what's the meaning of this plugin. So when you're using Vim, that means there's a lot of different things you can do. Vim multi-cursor. I hope they have the GIF there. See, this is what they're trying to demonstrate with this thing. So you can change multiple different places at the same time. And you can add those symbols and change them from column to rows. it's just like magic, right? I don't know what they are doing. But basically, that means you can do multiple things at the same time.
So you have to define, add more and more cursor that.
Yes, I think there's different things. So for this one, you just select the same name, right? You have the same name, and it can automatically select all the things with the same name, and you can change them at the same time. And for this one, I think it's more like the same position. So you just use the same position, you can do those kind of stuff. So this is called multi-cursor. It's also a plugin that can help you to finish your job more efficiently. So actually, each plugin here is really a very good thing. It's, in some sense, can help you a lot to make your coding fast or make your error less, things like that. And also, I have a full introduction of all those different plugins here. And there's much more tool to help you to make Vim special for you and more productive. So this is a website called Vim is Awesome. So there's the ranking of different kind of plugins. You can find the best there, and you can just download them. There's a package manager can help you to uninstall those plugins very fast. So there's one thing. Vim is really huge stuff, right? How to learn so many things at the same time. How can you start to get used to that? The first thing, of course, is use it. So for me, when I start to using Vim, I just push myself to do all the kind of stuff there. And if you use it daily, then you can improve very fast. And don't push yourself too much. Just learn several things at a time and enjoy that process. Because the first time, if you're using the multi-line cursor, you will be struggling because there's a lot of things you can finish with maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but at that time you can finish it just in seconds. It's amazing. And there's one good app. It's called Vim Tutor. So it's just an application. I think every time if you find a machine, they install the Vim, they also install this called Vim Tutor. So if you open this thing, basically it can guide you step by step how to use Vim. Just have a look of this thing. So it's Vim Tutor, and you open that, it will first show you how to maybe move things, like it show you the cursor, how to move different places. And basically you just follow the whole things, you can learn a lot. I think maybe just spend half a day, you can at least type things there. So Vim is actually really a powerful tool. So the last tool I want to introduce is how to debug, right? If you want to code there, you also need to debug there. So the debug is we have several applications. They all end up with DB debug. So GDB is for the C++, and there's the website you can find all the shortcuts of the keyboards. And also the JDB is for Java, PDB is for Python. So basically it's just one application and it's very easy. You just type some commands and it can help you to create a breakpoint, run to that breakpoint, and showing the variables, display the variable at that breakpoint. It's just like what you can do with any IDE. So if you're using other languages, there's many others similar tools out there. So this is the end of our 4 sessions of the thing, and we go from the basic to the advanced. And I hope this is the start of a new journey, so you can explore more, you can try more different applications, you can go deep and experiment more. So Linux, all about you do it yourself, right? And make more mistakes, and most importantly, just have fun in the whole process. And thank you very much for all the sessions. And there may be a follow-up email for a short survey for this course. And thank you very much. I enjoyed the whole, all 4 sessions. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll upload everything onto YouTube as well as onto the UB box, so you can find that later.
What was the other language programming you mentioned?
Functional programming. Functional programming. There's there's a common language between the functional programming language that is called Haskell. So if you learn Haskell, then you know all the functional programming language. Yes, that is function. So what we're using right now, like the Java, C++, that's all called imperative programming. So it's very useful in the daily life, like the companies, they use that. But like in the programming language community, they're more into the functional programming. And they believe that's the future of coding. Yeah.
If you have a question, how do you exit the